Hello, everyone. I'm Terza with the Parsons Entrepreneur Academy. Thank you all for joining us on our fourth installment in a series called Behind the Creative. Here we invite successful and inspiring creative entrepreneurs to share their stories and the lessons they've learned along the way. For those of you joining us for the first time, the Parsons Entrepreneur Academy is a platform that empowers creative entrepreneurs like yourself to build sustainable businesses around your art. Today, we are thrilled to be joined by Nailah Howze, an LA-based photographer and director who's worked with numerous brands, including Nike, Adidas, LA Times, and many more. And on that note, please welcome today's guest, Nai. How are you?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. All
Yes.
right. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so thrilled to have you on this.
I'm happy to be here.
Amazing. Okay, cool. So let's start this off by, just telling us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how you started in photography, all of that good stuff.
Okay, so my name is Nailah Howze. I'm a photographer, director, and event curator based out of Los Angeles. I was born in Los Angeles, but have a military background. So I spent some time in North Carolina. I spent time in South Korea, and I also spent time in the Bay Area. And then came back in 2017, back to LA, and then I'm here now and full-time freelancing since 2017. Yeah.
That's amazing. How did you come to find your passion for photography?
For me, I think when I was younger, I didn't see like a lot of representation of women that look like me, girls that look like me at the time. And I was just kind of always curious, but didn't really have an idea on how to get my start into it, what that looked like, I didn't really have any resources or access to that. Schools didn't really have, they didn't cater to creatives. We had like a small, I remember I had like one small design class, and that like triggered it for me. And like, I know to a lot of people was like the elective that they were just trying to get out the way. But for me, I was like, yo, this is like the one class that has the most, like for me, that I learned the most out of like probably all of my high school time. So there's a movie called Crooklyn that really inspired me by Spike Lee. Spike Lee is one of my favorite directors. And that movie was the first time that I saw a little girl that actually like looked like me, had a family very similar to me. And I was just like, oh, wow, this is what I want to do. So from there, I kind of just did my research. While I was in the Air Force, I spent a lot of time behind the desk. So I watched a lot of YouTube tutorials and just figured out as much as I could while I was working in the cubicle. So that's how it came about. And I just kind of started freestyling with my friends. And it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to turn this into a career. It was just like, yo, this is really fun. Like, I love doing this. Like, no matter what I was doing throughout the day, I was looking forward to going home just so that I can rush and go to the studio, or rush and go pick my friend up and go do photo shoots. And that's when I was like, oh, I really love this. Like, I love this. So that's how I got my start into it, for sure.
That's an amazing story. Out of curiosity, what was your first starter kit camera?
My starter camera was a Canon T3i, and then I had a Nikon D3200. So I remember just going to the store. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't have any knowledge on the camera. I was like, this just looks like it's a good camera. We had like the on base, kind of like a on base Walmart when you're in the military. So I went there and I was like, this camera is better than my phone at the time. So I just had got that. And then once I started playing with that and learning the settings and learning like the basic fundamentals of photography, that's when I knew, okay, this is what I need in my next camera. So I always tell people when they ask me like, what's a good starter camera? I'm like, literally any camera. Just get a camera and learn the fundamentals in photography and what you're trying to do, and then you'll know exactly what kind of camera you're trying to do, or what you're trying to get, because it all just depends on the lane and the style of photography that that you're trying to focus on what you think would be best for camera bodies and camera lens. So any camera is the best starting camera, and I really mean that because I had no idea what I was buying at first.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like that's something a lot of photographers say too, because it's also a lot of it is in the editing too. Like
Exactly.
there's so many components to like creating a perfect photo. So
Right.
that's great advice. So from what I hear, movies and Spike Lee were a lot of your inspirations to get you to where you are now. So what other things growing up inspired you and inspired your kind of creative journey, creative motivation?
Honestly, I feel like all of my photography is just inspired by like random simple moments. There wasn't any like grand thing going on. It was just like, oh, I'm at the barbecues. Look at the little girls, doing their hair, brushing the Bratz dolls, or the uncles like cooking, and just a bunch of just different like random things that I feel like the average person is just not really paying attention to because it's just normal. But I was always just drawn to that, like us just existing, Black and brown people just existing too. Like, I feel like that's something that just needs to be, I felt like, shown. Like, look at us. Like, look at us just being us, doing regular things. So my experiences came from everywhere, really, everywhere. Everywhere I went, I saw something that I was like, ooh, I just love that. It's so simple, but I love it. So for me, I guess it would just be like the simple things, really.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like my mom told me a lot growing up too. She was like, just look around. Like, if you're trying to be inspired, like, literally
Exactly.
look around you, the people who surround you,
Yep.
pick up a book or two.
Yep.
I mean, did you have any kind of books that you love to, like, even now kind of refer to?
I'll say recently my two favorite books. It's actually, I have a friend, her name is Diamond. She put out this book called Diamond in the Rough, which was like a biography about her life and just overcoming trauma like as a kid and stuff like that. And it was a lot of experiences for me that were relatable that I didn't even know, as her being my friend, that she was going through. So reading that was like my most recent read that like had my emotions like all over the place, but in a good way. Outliers, because the 10,000 hour theory, like if you put 10,000 hours into anything, you're guaranteed to be the best. And I remember reading that, and that just stuck in my head. And at some point, you don't count the hours. You're just going, and then you realize it starts to catch up with you, and like all those hours start to make sense. So really, just brick by brick, building things up. I feel like that's what I took from that book. So those two, I would say, are my two favorite.
That's great. Yeah, I've read Outliers. Incredible book. I
Yeah.
love Malcolm Gladwell, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes, incredible. So where do you source inspiration for your work now? Like, when you have, whether it's like passion projects or like bigger client
Mm-hmm.
shoots, like how do you source inspiration? How do you build on that inspiration? Do you create mood boards? Like, what's your kind of process?
I've realized I do create mood boards occasionally, but most of the time I already know what I'm trying to recreate or the feeling that I'm trying to do. And again, that just came from my years of just living and existing and seeing things. So it's so many things that I'm like, yo, I remember when I was a kid, this was like this. Like, let me see how I can incorporate this into a concept. And then just, I think for me, highlighting like my friends that might not have like, that are like unconventionally like beautiful, like, so the face tats and the things that like to some people might look at as like aggressive or like, I don't know, like frowned upon. I'm even more intrigued to like capture those people and show their light, and that's always fun for me. So like I have a lot of photos like shooting LA and like some of like the different hoods and stuff like that, places people don't really want to go in to do a photo shoot, but just going in there, kicking it with them, talking and shooting in between, not telling them, hey, I'm here to do a photo shoot, but just like really catching a vibe and trying to capture the essence of, how I felt and what was going on there. That's like my favorite thing to do.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I know that in your bio you say representing the
Represent.
under. Yeah, and it's such an
Mm-hmm.
awesome bio, and I feel like you capture that so well because I feel like you don't aim to do like I guess the stereotypical, atypical, like perfect people.
Right.
Like you're going for everyone else, and it's
Yep.
like everyone's beautiful in their own way. Like,
Exactly.
and I love that.
Thank you.
How did I know you talk a lot about face-to-face media. So how did that kind of come up, and how did you start
Yeah.
using that? Where did that come from?
So honestly, when I was younger, I want to say when I was in like 11th and 12th grade, there used to be these parties called Quickies in LA. And they were just the most organic, like fun parties that I ever went to. Like everybody would go. It wouldn't be no dress code. It wouldn't be no anything. Like literally everybody would just come to have a good time. And I mean, I would see every single person in there dancing, having fun. Once I graduated high school, left, did that whole thing, came back, and obviously I'm 21 now. I'm older. I'm able to go to the nightlife, and you're so excited for that until you go and you're like, wait, this is not like the experience that I thought it was gonna be. So being in LA, we already have like this Hollywood, like status people are trying to keep up with. So I noticed you would get into all these parties, you would do all of this to get in, and then literally it would just be people standing around looking at each other, trying to be seen. And I'm like, y'all did all of this to get into this party, and like it'll be a beautiful setup, it'll be a beautiful location, but it's just so boring. Like everything inside of it, like plain was just boring to me. And I was like, this isn't fun. So I stopped going out. I didn't want to go anywhere. And my friends would be like, yeah, you never go out. You never go out. And it's like, it's not that I don't want to go out. It's just I wasn't seeing, like a crowd that I wanted to be around or an experience that I wanted to be a part of. So that's really where it came from. I was like, you know what, like, let's just try. I'm not a party promoter. I'm not anything of that nature, but I was like, let me just try. So I literally had tweeted on Twitter in 2018, like I posted a small clip of me and my girls just like dancing, having a good time. And I was like, yo, I just want to bring these vibes back. I think I'm going to just try and throw a party and see how it goes, a day party. And it got like, I want to say like over 18,000 views on the video randomly. Like that was just like a random spare of the moment tweet. And I was like, let's just try it. And so I did. My friend was luckily nice enough to let us use the backyard of his house and was like, you can throw it here, do whatever you want. So we did that. We started with, I think the first one was just like 150 to 200 people. We did another one was 400, then just grew 500, 700. So we're throwing our Halloween event, and we sold that one out. So we're expecting 800 to 1,000 people there. So we're excited. It's just growing and just turning into, I think for me, it's just I wanted to make it feel like a little bit of an elevated block party vibe. So where everybody having a good time, you have vendors, you have food. It's like no dress code, no guest list, no sections or tables. Everybody just like, yo, show up as you are, have a good time and mingle. So yeah, we're just going with it and just seeing where it takes us. Ideally, I would love to throw a festival in the next couple of years. So that's what
incredible. That's
yeah.
a huge goal. Yeah, that's
Thank
awesome.
you.
I see like all the events that you're posting about all the time on Twitter, and I'm like, this looks so cool. Like I need to go to LA one time.
Yes,
to be able to attend.
Yes.
Amazing. So going back to just more of your career, because it's so impressive and so amazing, and I love just hearing your story. What would you say was your big break or like your big start in, you work obviously with a lot of different brands, a lot of celebrities, a lot of artists. So what would you say is the one pivotal moment in your career?
Pivotal moment. I will say it's hard. What I realized with this question is like, I don't really realize when was that moment. Like I was just having fun the whole time along the way that I didn't realize what was the moment that like changed. Cause I really don't feel like it was a change overnight. It was just like a bunch of small things. I will say my first celebrity thing that I was able to capture, I shot P. Diddy for the Bad Boy Reunion Tour. And that was in October of like 2016. And that was my first time doing anything like that. And that's when I was like, wait, I couldn't even afford to get into this concert. So the fact that I'm here, like able to capture this and like seeing what backstage life is and the pit and everything, I think for me, it gave me that confidence. Like you can be in any room that you want to be in, like any room. So I will say that was a moment where it was like, life seemed like things that were so much bigger than me seemed like they're literally right here and that I could do anything.
I love that. Diddy's not a bad first person to do.
I was like, okay.
Who are some of your other favorite people that you've shot?
Who are my other favorite people that I've shot? They're really my friends. I have fun shooting my friends. Like those are my favorite people to work with. Vanity, a girl named Vanity, a girl named Jasmine. I work with Yara Shahidi on her Adidas campaign. Alayli May. Alayli May is my favorite person that I've worked with. I have to say that she just puts on for her city. Like she gets everybody involved that is really from here to like bring visions to life. And I think that's dope because she really cares about everything down to the details. And she's from LA as well. So yeah, definitely Alayli May. She's fire.
Yeah, that campaign was beautiful, I might add. It was really well done. I love her too. The Jordans were so sick.
Yeah, she does her thing.
Totally. So what made you decide to follow a creative career choice, though that's, possibly riskier, rather than something, more stable, more 9 to 5?
Right. Being in the military gave me a lot of time to think and realize what I did and did not want. So when I was in, I just remember like I was spending so many hours, like putting so many hours into a job that literally did not fulfill me at all. Like I would go home feeling like I don't have any purpose and like I'm not supposed to really be like working this job. And it just felt like my talents and my things that I knew that I had were just not being catered to at all. So I know at some point I was just like, I'm just gonna get out and take a risk, and it's either gonna work or it's not. And then I could always go get a 9 to 5, but I'm like, at least try, give it a try. So I really, when I got out, I didn't have any set plan except for work on this every day, put as much time as you can, like the same amount of hours that I was putting into this, put into that. And what people don't realize is like, you work a lot more hours as a freelancer. Like it's like, and I mean, I'm sure we'll get into that, but that's kind of something that I struggle with, is trying to have boundaries when to stop and like cut it. Like, you know, like sometimes you really just have to like, take time for you, because you love it so much that it turns into your life. Like it's your life. It does turn into your life. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. I feel that too. I feel like as someone who's been in the industry for a little bit now too, I feel like I'm constantly like, what they don't tell you is that you have to be your own sometimes manager, your own like bookkeeper, your own assistant. Like you're having to do everything, and people don't tell you that like, yeah, like that's something that you
that's a job in itself too.
Totally. Yeah. And that's why sometimes it's like, yeah, like what's that meme that went around that was like, we traded our like 9 to 5 for like a 24/7?
Exactly. That's really what it is.
Every time I see that, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like,
that's the truth.
Yeah, so you've been in the game for a while now. You've, worked your way up. With the rise of your success and the rise of your creative journey, was there anyone who kind of helped you get through that? Like, do you have any mentors? And if you do, why would you say mentorship is important?
I honestly can't say I just have one mentor. I definitely lean in and hone in on my friends though. Like my best friend, Semi, she, even though I just recently met Semi within the last 3 years, like I feel like pushed me to that next level to tell me like, nah, come on, do this. Just shoot your shot. Like, just go for it. Like with everything. Before I'll be like, maybe I should wait, or maybe I should. She's like, no, just do it now. Like, what is that gonna hurt? Come on. Like, so I'm thankful for her. And then of course my family, as always. Like, I just take bits and pieces of what my family has told me when I was younger and applied that to my life. I feel like business wise, like my dad was very much like he's a very much like stern type of person of like, no, like if you don't like it, say no. If you do, say yeah. Like if that's not what you want to do, like don't do it. Like speak up. Like, and so I'm just like that with everything, and making sure, I think my dad has like this very strong presence everywhere that he walks. So when I go on set, like making sure, you're already a woman, they're already gonna kind of treat you a certain type of way. So just walking in with that dominance and like being assertive from the jump, like changes how people approach you and respect you. So definitely my dad for that. And my mom, she's a free spirit. She's almost like a hippie. She's just like, do it. So like having that balance between the two of them I feel like the perfect formula for what I needed.
That's great. I love that your dad helps you set boundaries, because that's so important in this line of work.
Oh yeah.
But I also love that your mom pushes you to not say no. But
exactly.
That's why balance is important, because it helps you kind of, as you kind of grow, to discern what you should and shouldn't do.
Right. Absolutely.
That's great. And so from all the things that you've learned from the people around you, what are some tips you would give to people who are kind of looking to do what you do, grow their creative entrepreneur journey, start photography, start their own agency, whatever that looks like for them?
I actually had talked about this recently randomly on Twitter, but I was saying how I feel like a couple of things. For one, it's reach out to the people around you, like people that are in your field. Offer a hand to them. That's the easiest way to not only learn, but to network within your creative field, so that people that that you're trying to work with, that's literally just a walk in the park for me. Like, okay, even to this day, I really want to direct. So I will take behind the scenes photos on all kind of video shoots, just because not only, it's cool to take the photos, but I'm really paying attention to how's the DP working, how's the gaffers working, how's everybody on this set working, so that I can kind of just take notes. For me, it's kind of like, my film school in a sense. So I'm like, yo, pay attention, go in. And again, meeting those people will help you put you in the doors that you want to go to. My other thing is not just quitting your 9 to 5 just because it sounds good and it's like, yeah, look, I quit my 9 to 5. It's like, that doesn't make sense because ultimately you're not going to be able to fund the things that you're trying to do because you don't have any income coming in. And that just, I've seen that happen to people and I'm like, why would you do that? Like, you're trying to impress everybody else by telling yourself that you don't need a 9 to 5 when really you do, and that's fine. And until, you have enough income to where it's making sense with what you're doing now, then keep it going. Like, just keep that going until, it's ready. When you're ready, not when everybody else is like, yeah, you should probably just quit. Like, that doesn't make sense. And then the other thing is, of course, just not comparing yourself. Like, your journey, like your chapter 5 might be somebody else's chapter 100, chapter 1. It doesn't make sense. So even though like to you right now where it's at, it might look like this glorious thing. You don't know what came before that for that person. And you don't know what's going to come after that. So it's like, just focus on you and what you're trying to do. And then honestly is every bit of advice that people give you is not going to be for you. Take bits and pieces of it. You don't need to try and do a step-by-step like formula exactly how they do it. Take what feels good to you and what's working or what you needed to hear out of that message and run with that. But don't feel like, okay, if I do it exactly like this, it's going to work exactly like that. It just doesn't work like that. There, a lot of times in our field, there's no blueprint to it. It's constantly changing. Social media is constantly changing. How everything is operating is constantly changing. So you have to kind of just move with the times and what you feel like is best for you.
That's great. I love that last part because like in the last year, like the rise of TikTok has been insane. Like that didn't exist like a year and a half ago.
No, TikTok, especially for art, like music artists, their streams and everything, I'm realizing like they're getting a lot of like that added a whole nother like layers for them. And I'm like, that's amazing.
Totally. It's insane. Like with artists too, as well. Like before, like they didn't care about pre-saving and all that kind of stuff. And now it's like there's so many little things to be able to like help artists grow and help, like the social media is crazy. But I love what you said because there is no blueprint to this. I feel like media is constantly changing, and we're all
the world. Like
totally.
Just even outside of the media, it's just like the way of the world. We couldn't see this pandemic coming. We could not have called that. Like, so that made like a huge shift for everybody. So again, you could have had all this planned out for that year when, it was really hitting heavy and that happened. So it's like, you got to just be able to adjust with the times constantly.
Yeah, definitely. We don't even know what's going to happen in the next like month to year. So definitely one of those things. But in terms of staying on top of things, like how do you stay on top of culture? Like, I know that you work a lot in fashion and you work all over the place, but like, how do you kind of stay on top of the trends and how culture is moving and the pace that it's moving in?
For one, Twitter will tell you everything you need to know. That's number one.
I can't live without that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, Twitter will keep you updated with everything. That's number one. But number two is I do just like to show up to events, like local events that are going on. People invite me places and I will just pop up, even if it's for a few minutes. Like, that's how you see what's going on outside, what people are reacting to, how they're liking certain things, what people are wearing. Like, I feel like just going out and showing face, you don't have to stay the whole time because some people are like, well, I don't really like to be out all day and blah, blah, blah. That's fine. Like, you really could show face for a little bit and learn a lot and see a lot and meet a lot of people. So that's something that I definitely do. And then just like random things. Like, I love Pinterest. I'm just constantly scrolling on Pinterest and I'll go down a rabbit hole on Pinterest and finding all kind of things and inspiration and what's going on and current trends. So just being around, again, I think a lot of things that come back down to experiencing things and getting out and seeing things. And that's why I feel like a lot of people need to travel outside of the country too, is because it'll open your mind to a lot more, because what's just going on around you is not even close to what the world is like and what's happening. So experiencing things and going out, definitely, I would say, is number one.
Definitely. And I heard that you just came back from Colombia. Do you want to talk about that trip? Like, what did you do? How was that? How did that open your eyes?
Yes, Colombia. I actually was booked for a travel agency and a new travel agency. So I went out there and we just really explored Colombia. I know a lot of times people go out of the country and they have fun in the Airbnb and right in the local area, but we like traveled hours out, went to a city called Palenque with like Afro-Colombians, and learned all about the history, did the whole like thing from sun up till sundown, had meals in the backyard cooked by, you know, the older women. Like that was honestly a life-changing trip for me. And I wrote a lot. Like the whole time we were like driving to the next destination, I was in my notes, like writing how everything makes me feel, what it looks like. I have a million photos on my phone and videos. But that was, again, a trip that I was like, I didn't even know I needed this, but I really needed this trip. So yeah, traveling, I feel like traveling is the number one eye opener and will bring ideas to you that you didn't, you know, that you couldn't have seen with you being at home.
Definitely. Where are some of the other kind of places that you visited that you've loved?
Randomly, even though it's right here, the Bay Area. The Bay ended up like it's Oakland specifically. Oakland changed how I viewed a lot of things. Like the culture there is just distinctively different. And I don't even know how to explain it. It's a melting pot of so many people, but it's like it's just a good time everywhere you go. Like you're going to, it's called Lake Merritt. People are kicking in by Lake Merritt. They're having barbecues. They're in low riders. Like I live for that type of stuff. So yeah, the Bay is fun. I feel like everywhere I went, it's done something for me in some kind of way though. So but definitely Colombia will be my most recent like wow, I love it, and I would 100% go back.
Yeah, I feel like as well going to places outside of like North America, you realize that life is polar opposite to what you're used to.
Exactly.
Like you're almost like in this bubble, you know?
Yeah.
So like traveling is definitely one of those things. And I can't even imagine how like all the photos that you took while you were there. It must have been
Right.
so amazing. So going back to something that you said earlier, you were talking about, you know, you like going to events and stuff. Do you have any tips on networking? Like how do you find clients and how do you connect to more people to work with?
It's and that okay, so I don't want to say it again, but really going out and just talking. I'm very big on just, hey, I like this about you, or oh, I like that. Like I will compliment and talk to people everywhere I go. So that's number one. And then social media makes it easy. You can just always drop a comment on someone's photos or like build that relationship like super easy. And then throwing my own events out, that turned into a big networking thing for me too. Like bringing in friends, telling friends, like keeping it circulating like that. So I know for me, another way specifically for photographers, it's kind of a trick that I did. I would shoot a lot of events at some point because what would happen was I would go to these events, I would take all these photos of these people, and I'd be the only photographer, and everybody wants to know how they can get the photos. So I would just, bam, you can get me here, you can get me here, and I would just constantly, oh, here's my social media, here's my email, here's my this, and that kept the pool going because ultimately, if you take a photo that they love, they're gonna book you for something else. Like people always need photos for something, and that's what I realized. Like it can be the most random things, but that's something that I did a lot that built like my clientele up for sure.
That's great. Do you use LinkedIn at all?
No, and I need to.
Did you see the viral tweet that went around by
Yes.
Joshua?
Yes. And I'm like, it's crazy. One of my friends, he's a photographer, he posted today, like the LinkedIn algorithms are amazing. And he had posted a photo and it got like 60,000 views or something in like 2 days. And I was like, I literally today was like, I'm going to go on LinkedIn and like actually build my profile today.
I know. I was like, I need a new headshot.
Yeah.
Like the photos from like 2017. Exactly. Like I need to spruce this thing up.
Right.
For sure. So with networking, you obviously naturally will see and meet other photographers, and obviously with the rise of social media, I mean, like you're on Twitter and Instagram, you see how easy it is to see work and you know how media is disseminated. My question is, how, when you see all of this other work, do you stop from comparing to these people, or like, you know, seeing them as like competition in a way?
Right. Well, number one, most of my friends are photographers. Like we all just really admire each other's work. Like that's number one. So befriending these people like that you might have looked at as competition. Like I honestly don't look at any of them as competition. We all look at it like, oh, you're dope in this style, you're dope in this style. Like we all know kind of have our own individual styles. We could shoot the same people, but we're all gonna make it look a little bit different. And we all know, oh, that's this person's work. I can see photos now and already know most of the time what photographer took it. So it's never looked at as any competition. If anything, we're like, yo, how can we collab, or how can we do something to where we all could like make this make sense? So it's fun for me. Like yeah, most of my friends are photographers. Bree, Exquisite Eye, Allie Green, Darren, Justin. It's just so many. Like it goes on forever. Obi, but yeah, it's a lot of amazing.
Yeah, they're amazing. All of those people are amazing photographers.
And Polly, who owns Black Woman Photographers, she's amazing. She's amazing. Yeah.
That's awesome. And are these are all like you met them on Twitter, Instagram?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I've met all of them on Twitter and Instagram, but I know them all in real life now. We've all met. But we definitely started that relationship just like, yo, I love your work. Oh, I love your work. And then run into each other. So yeah.
That's incredible. I love social media for that very reason. Like you meet friends, like you might not even meet them in the next year.
Exactly.
Like, you know they got your back.
10 years that I've never met, and I'm like, we're friends, even though I've only met you on social media. We've known each other for literally 10 years. I'm like, we're friends.
Oh yeah, I'm like, it's so weird. Some of my closest friends are basically pen pals.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's awesome. So going back to kind of finding work, all that good stuff. How do you deal with rejection, and how do you stop it from affecting your creative process?
For what? How would I explain this? I mean, initially, I'm not gonna lie, it hits you a little bit. It's like, oh, dang, I wasn't good enough for this, but it always comes back around in a different way, and that's what I realize now. So I'm just kind of like, yo, you can't get every single thing, like not everything. So I don't know. I just deal with it in the moment. Usually it doesn't like affect me longer than honestly 30 minutes. I'm like, oh, I thought I was gonna get that, but okay. Anyways, on to the next project, because I feel like constantly having like other things going on that you're trying to work on, to where it's like, yo, this isn't the end of the world. It's not like I planned the whole year for this one shoot and they said no. It's like I had other things going on anyway. So I was like, that was just gonna be one of them thrown in the pile with that. But yeah, it's a million other things. First of all, when I ever get down about anything, think about how many people are in this world, like, and how many people would want photos. It's like, it's never ending. Technically, you can go anywhere and you're always going to find somebody that wants to work on something. So it's like, it's not the end of the world. It's just not.
Yeah. That's great mentality to have. I feel like like there's always work going around. Like it's great. Right. I feel like every single day, like there's a new campaign, which means like there's something constantly shooting. So
exactly.
Yeah, you think you miss out on one thing, but like sometimes things, don't happen to you, they happen for you. And it's like, right. You never know. Maybe if you book that one thing, you can't book something bigger,
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, when I think about it, I'm like, it doesn't really happen that much. Like just as far as like, no, it's usually just like oh, we have to push it back, or this happened. So it's usually more that kind of thing where it's like, oh, dang, I was looking forward to this, but they're like, we got to postpone it to like another 6 months or a year or something. It's like, dang, I was looking forward to it. So those actually hurt, but it's rare that they're just going to say no. That's what now that I think about it, I'm like, it's never just usually a no. It's usually like, hey, we can't do this now, or we don't have the budget for this now, but they always kind of try and give, most of the time they try and give you hope, like, well, we're still going to work on it. So I always feel like there's still a possibility of it working out either way.
Totally. And that's why you also have to just reply with them, like, that's totally fine,
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
see you guys soon.
Thank you for reaching out anyway.
Can't pop off on them,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'll never work with you.
Right.
Totally. So with someone like yourself who just works all the time, clearly you're booked and busy, how do you avoid burnout?
Yes, and that happens a lot, honestly. And I can't say I avoid it. I just deal with it when it comes. So when I do feel like that, I'm just really burnt out, I literally just stop doing it. Like I will literally like, hey, call my friends, you wanna go do brunch? I'm queen of a brunch. When I'm going through something, I'm like, let's do brunch. And I feel like that's like all my friends know, okay, like she's stressed out about something, so she wants to do brunch. So I'll just do other things. Go to the beach. I recently learned how to make beats. Like I completely just randomly picked that up and was like, I just want to focus on another medium. So I was like, let's make beats. And like in the process of that, it's like, ooh, this beat sounds good for a film. Oh, let's work on a film. Like it'll just constantly circle. And then eventually it'll come back to photography anyways. And photography was never my end goal. So it's like learning these other things I feel like is important for me. So I try and take it in phases and doses. Okay, right now I want to work on photography. Let's work on that. If you want to work on films, work on that. But balance, I feel like it's just something that I'm still learning. So I can't really give the best advice on it. I'm still trying to learn on how to balance everything. I recently hired an assistant who I love. She's amazing. So she's been with me for like the last 9 months, and just things like that, being able to delegate tasks to other people instead of feeling like you have to do everything by yourself. So at first I was really scared about that. I'm like, you know, like this is my baby. So anything, like I was scared to bring somebody else in, but she's amazing at what she does, and it makes my job a lot easier so that I can focus on the creative part.
That's great. Sometimes you just gotta delegate tasks, because sometimes you just
Yes.
gotta, yeah, because the admin stuff is the stuff that like honestly takes so much time and people don't
Yes.
talk about it. But it's like
Yes.
this is time I could be spending on like
Yeah,
actually doing my work.
right. You'll start missing out on a lot of things too because you're not getting back to it fast enough, and that's what was happening. And that's when I was like, oh no, like let me have somebody like just handle that.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome. Yeah. So do you ever get in like creative blocks or ruts? And if you do, how do you get out of them besides brunch, of course?
yeah, right. Brunch the answer to everything. I have like so many kind of like treatment ideas that I wrote in my phone, and I'm like, yo, let me just go back to something super old. So I usually go back to like something that I wrote in my notes like from years ago, and I'm like, oh, how do I feel about doing this now? How can I make it better? Or literally I'll just make a post and I'm like, anybody free today? Like I'll make a very spontaneous post that nobody saw coming and do stuff like that. Or like I did a 30 days of film 2 months ago. I was like, I want to just shoot film for 30 days straight, and I did it for super cheap. So I only made people pay for the roll of film, and I set up like 6 sessions a day. So I was shooting about 6 to 8 people a day for 30 days and stuff like that. Like to where I could just meet a bunch of people, work on things, and just do it freely without any expectations or any deadlines or anything, like just for me. So just taking a step back and remembering why I started is always like important for me to get out of creative blocks. Like, yo, you wanted this, you love this. Like, don't let this, this one little moment like kind of taint how you feel about everything.
Totally. And I feel like when you work a lot of corporate too, it's like sometimes you don't have all the creative freedom. You're like literally doing a job for them. So it's like, so like it's great, pay is great, everything looks great, the client's happy, but like it's like, dang, like I want to work on some passion projects.
Exactly.
Totally. So outside of like creative projects, what else is bringing you joy?
Face to face. Like I don't like, again, like my whole work world is what I love. So it's like everything is attached to photography, film, face to face, like things like that. I do want to travel more, but again, the times can get weird and everything going on. But it's hard to answer that question because I really love what I do. So I always look forward to, all right, let me figure out what shoot I want to do or what I want to work on now, or how can I go to the studio and like learn, like just learn. I just like learning more and more. Like, 'cause the more you learn, then you can really bring your ideas to life way better. Because there's things, the concepts that I shot a long time ago that I'm like, oh, if I would have known this or had this lighted like this properly, it would have looked completely different. So I still make sure I watch YouTube tutorials on certain things to just constantly keep up.
That's dope. How else do you learn, like besides YouTube videos?
Going on set and literally hands-on and asking questions. I will ask the director, oh, casually, oh, do you know, or what is that card? What is that? Like without getting too in the way of what they're doing. That information adds up, and I'll write it right in my notes, and then I'll go look it up exactly what they were talking about. And yeah, just a constant process of that. But definitely YouTube and just hands-on experience on sets.
That's awesome. I love that. I feel like one day I'm gonna have to have a peek at your notes.
Yes. Yeah, my notes are crazy. My notes are so long. Like I write everything in there. It's my journal.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that photography isn't necessarily your end goal. What do you want to be doing next, or what is your end goal? I mean, maybe that's too far.
Yeah, I can't say what my end goal is, but definitely I want to put out movies. I want to put out movies 100%.
That's amazing.
I want to do festivals, and I want to open my own film lab. That's something that I really want to do. I want to own a building where film lab is one of the things. And because I spend so much money developing film, buying film, that I'm like, why not invest into your own? Like, so I would love to have women running the film lab and everything. Like, that's how I see it. And like a creative, like co-working space where you can bring it as for events, but you also can have like conference rooms and run all kind of things in it. So just a creative hub in LA, that would be amazing.
That's dope. I love that so much. So going back to a little bit more of your photography and your work, what does your creative process look like? So from when a client gives you a brief to the concept to the execution, what does that process look like to you?
Yeah, so well, when clients like reach out asking for a shoot, there's a bunch of different options. There's options that started like, hey, they just want some freestyle photos, and we could do that. Some want a whole mood board, so I'll tell them, hey, like send me a starting point, and I can help you build on that. That's usually what happens. Or I think for me, what I'm realizing is a lot of my work is more like lifestyle, a little bit documentary style. So anyways, I don't try and plan too hard. I'm like, yo, just show up and shoot what feels good. So I like to shoot day in the life photos anyway. So I don't really build too hard of a mood board because it's never going to work like that in the style of work that I want to do. So it's like show up, shoot, see an idea of the vibe they're going for, and then capture that. But really my best work has just came from work that I wasn't even paid for. Usually all the photos that book me for the campaigns are the photos that I just took for me every single time. So I'm like, that just shows me like, yo, just go out and just do it your way. So that's what I do.
Totally. I feel like there's an element to when you're doing it for fun that it's
Yeah.
like, I feel like you have more time to experiment. There's less pressure to perform. You're just like, this could come out anyway, especially if you're shooting film. It's like, film is like,
no, definitely. And then, since I started shooting film, I'm just a lot more intentional because film only I shoot on medium format film, so it's only 10 shots per roll. And ultimately after plus buying the roll plus developing it is like $50. So I'm like, $50 per 10 photos, I'm gonna take my time with how I'm gonna shoot this roll. Opposed to digital where I'm just like, like letting it go.
Yeah, so, you just get shutter happy.
Exactly. Just go.
That's hilarious. So what to you makes a photograph good? Like, how do you, evaluate your work? Do you evaluate your work? How do you kind of find ways to, I guess, keep growing and like keep doing better?
Right. For me personally, what I love out of photography is storytelling. So when I see something and it makes me, I remember that, or this reminds me of blah, 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 or this like feels good, like that's what I like. Like I realize I'm not really a fan of, I think that people that do studio work are amazing, but it's like anybody could go in and shoot that exact shot again. All you had to do is get that perfect light setup, as opposed to just street photography and just capturing people in the daily life. You can't really get that exact moment twice. So like somebody that's able to capture that, see that happening as it's happening, and capture that and get it well, like composed, lighting and everything, I'm like, oh yeah, like golden. Like I love stuff like that. So there's a photographer, her name is Dana Lixenberg. I don't know if I'm saying her name right, but she's like in her late 50s, early 60s. She shot the Watts projects for 20 years straight. And I thought that was amazing. Like she was so dedicated to showing this particular community and like just them day to day. Like somebody that's just so passionate about that they could commit to 20 years of it. Like I think is fire. So she's my favorite photographer, and she's not even from America. I forgot where she's from. And that's why I'm like, the fact that she came all the way to the Watts project, Section 8, and captured that the way she did, I think is incredible. Still need to buy her book. But yeah, she's amazing.
That's great. I love hearing about all the people that inspire you. I feel like it's so different with every single person. And like, obviously it's like your upbringing, where you live has a big,
right.
It's just awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have a couple questions left. We're running out of time on the questions portion, and then we're going to do the Q&A with everyone. I feel like there's so many questions already pouring in, so
Right.
definitely want to get to them.
Yeah.
But my second to last question is, what is your favorite accomplishment so far?
My
I know this is going to be tough because
yeah,
I couldn't even pick one of yours.
I'm like, I don't know. Honestly, I will say recently I don't know. That's hard. There's a lot of different things that I was like, wow, I didn't know I could do this, and it
I
made me
know.
happy.
I
Um,
know. And they all mean something different to you.
yeah, they
I know.
do.
It's a tough
I,
question, but I was like, I'm curious.
yeah. I guess I'll say right now it's being able to build my photography community to a point where I'm able to bring people out to these events and have them all in one space, because it's something about walking into that event knowing just me and my partner did this, and and seeing all these people like that, just it's exciting for me because people like give a lot of good feedback about that, about how it made them feel good, and they haven't been to anything like that, and that they feel comfortable, and just seeing all different types of people from all kind of backgrounds, that probably means the most to me, because I'm like, dang, like I never had a community of people like this. I never really was a clicked up type of person or anything. So seeing that people are coming out and supporting like something that I'm doing and that I just really did off of love, that makes me like that's probably the proudest, like, or biggest accomplishment that I've had.
That's great. I feel like there's something about being able to band people together,
Mm-hmm.
for one, whatever it is, whether you all love music or photography. It's like
Right.
something about like creating a community and curating something for all these people. Like that's an incredible feeling.
Right. Right. Yep.
Awesome. And the last question I have, I love asking this with like all of our guests, but what are you looking forward to doing next?
What I'm looking forward to doing next. Few things. For one, traveling more. I want to put out a documentary. So I have an idea of what I want to shoot, and getting that team together and putting out my first documentary. I don't watch TV or keep up with shows, but I watch a million documentaries, and so I'm clearly just interested in this. I love giving out information. I love telling the story or getting other people's stories out, and so putting out my first documentary, but not making it a traditional documentary. So I'm trying to figure out how I want that to make that make sense. Yeah, that's where I'm at with it right now, is putting that out.
That's dope. I can't wait to see that, or even just to hear more about it. I feel like documentaries are such a beautiful form of storytelling because it's like the honest and truest form of it. Like,
Exactly.
so I'm excited to see what yours is about.
Thank you.
Alrighty, well, we're going to move on to the Q&A portion. We have questions pouring in, so I'm super excited to get to these. But for everyone that is on the stream right now, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments and we will get to them. I don't know if the comment section is down here or on YouTube, but
comments here.
One side. One side. Alrighty, let me scroll up. All right, let's get to our first question. What photographers inspire you now that you are in the profession?
Now that I'm in, like I said, all of my friends, Exquisite Eye, Bree, that's my girl. Justin, his is Kai Soul, or KAI_Soul. Ordinary, Obi, Tosin, and Allie. I'm gonna miss somebody. That's why I didn't want to say it, but there's so many. It's so many. I take inspiration from a little bit of everybody. I like different things about all of them.
This is like when people go up to on their like Grammy speech and they're like, I want to thank
exactly.
And everyone's like in the crowd and they're like,
right.
Hey, hello. I don't remember your name. I worked with you for a year.
Right.
Oh man. Yeah. I'm gonna like edit this part. Just tag everyone.
You're good.
Next question is, how do you deal with the I can get you exposure clients?
I respectfully tell them that, someone just posted a meme that said, if you could do this basically, if you're booking me for exposure, how did you find me? Clearly, I don't need the exposure because you still found me. So I just respectfully tell them I'm not in a space where I can do, work like that, and to come back to me when they have a budget, like simple. And if they get mad about that, that's truly unfortunate. That's truly unfortunate.
Totally. I also just want to insert that meme here so everyone.
Yeah. I'm like,
it's
I
the
gotta
best
see that
meme.
meme. Yes.
Yeah, I love it. And it's like the photo from Good Girls, I think.
Yeah.
Of Rio. It kills
You
me.
already know exactly what I'm talking about. Yes. Yes.
Next question. I see your work as being a lot about social justice, showing real people in real life. Can you talk a bit more about how social justice informs your work? I love this question.
That is a good one. It definitely does play a role into, because I feel like photography is the fastest way. If you don't want to read an article, you see a photo, it's going to tell you exactly what it is that you wanted to know or learn about. So all the things that are going on in the world, and then just where I play a part in it. Obviously, I don't necessarily always have all the knowledge to write all these articles and stuff that people do on it. So all I can do is take a picture of what it looks like from, my eye, and like what I feel like isn't being seen enough. I try and make it my job to, hey, let's bring this to the forefront. Y'all aren't talking about this enough, and this is still very much important. So that's how it plays, a role into my work.
That's dope. Next question was alley-ooping a question previously, but how do you charge your worth, or how do you ask for what's fair? Oof, that's a good one.
That's actually a good question. So what I did, the only way that I did it was I started off as something small. I started off at $50 because I feel like $50 is nothing, essentially. Like, especially if I'm there for an hour, $25 to shoot, $25 to go home and edit it for an hour. That's nothing, essentially. So I started at 50, and then you just move it up and you just see what people are willing to pay. Okay, they say yeah to 100. Oh, okay, they say yeah to 150. Oh, they said you can just go up slowly and slowly. But also in the process of that, I try to tell people to make sure that you're still learning stuff and growing. You're not just like trying to raise your prices just because. Like, yo, actually no, like, yo, I'm putting more time into this now, or now I have lighting. Like, also when I upgraded my equipment, I was like, this isn't cheap. Like, I'm paying for lens, lights, programs, Adobe's websites, all kind of stuff. So as you're upgrading your stuff, your prices should be going up because your quality should be changing. So start at $50 and just move up. That's what I say. Start at 50 and go up.
That's awesome. And when you like send them the quote and then they get back to you like, oh, good. And you're like, I gotta charge more.
Exactly.
I gotta charge more.
Like, that was too easy. That was too easy.
You're like, wait.
Exactly.
There's no back and forth about
this? Right.
Cool. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Next question. Is there anything you're currently obsessed with?
Is there anything that I'm currently obsessed with? Like, as in what? Like, what am I obsessed with? I don't know if there's anything that I'm currently obsessed with. I don't know. Can you clarify that question? Then we come back to it. Like, in what?
Yeah. We can totally come back to it. Next question is, how do you get a big brand to work with, such as Nike?
Oh, yeah. So again, this was like all of the campaigns that I've shot, they reached out to me, thankfully. But all of the work that they found me from, again, was from work that I just did with my friends. So when you just are creating for you and you find like your niche and your style, that's what they're coming to for you. Because now I'm realizing every time campaigns or brands are booking me, they're saying the same type of verbiage. They're like, we're looking for like a West Coast urban shooter. Like, that's my style. That's what I love. Before I was getting booked for all kind of random things. But once I like focused in on what it is that I just want to do and like my focus, that's what they like. So they're like, yo, let's find somebody that focuses on that. So I shot the Icons of LA project. I shot LA Times, like LA's biggest streetwear brands, like all this stuff that's in my world. That's where they're coming. That's where they're finding me from. So my best advice is just to shoot like a lot of personal work that you think is fire. Put a little bit of money into it too. Like anytime I do these personal shoots, I make sure I'm paying for them to get there. make sure you can, like offer them like food or like stuff like that, like little stuff. If people are volunteering their time for you, even though it's a collab and you're not getting paid for it, do a little bit more for them, because they'll be willing to do more for you in the long run too.
That's dope. I love that. I love that you talk a lot about investing in yourself. I feel like that's super important, especially like when you're on the come up, like when you're not necessarily making a lot of money from from your hustle. You just gotta like put into it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Next question. Do you work with a manager or an agent?
No, I don't have a manager or an agent.
Interesting.
So it's just me and my assistant. It's just me and my assistant. So yeah.
Would you work?
Say that again?
But would you work with a manager or an agent?
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely work with a manager. I'll work with the manager for sure. I don't necessarily know if I would work with an agent. But a manager, yes. I'm open to it.
Hashtag find a manager on TikTok. On Twitter.
Right. Exactly.
I love it. Next question. How do you feel about editing when it comes to film? Ooh, that's a great question.
Yeah, and this is why I love film. It is minimal editing. Minimal. Like if you shoot it right, make sure it's properly exposed. Like I just take my time when I'm shooting film again and make sure I get the right shot. I do like the slightest things on there, and the colors are already amazing. You don't have to do too much at all. So that's the beautiful thing about film. The composition is already there. The colors are already there. Like it's like this perfect level of texture to it. I think film is amazing. And now I see like people are like, nah, you should get into film. I'm like, yeah, I can't go back. Now I'm just like plotting on my next film camera. I want to try this. I want to try this. I want to try that. I actually just bought a Super 8 camera I'm excited about. So.
Oh, nice. What do you shoot on right now, though, for film?
I have a Pentax 672. It's my baby.
Nice.
It's a heavy camera, but it does the job.
I think people are always either between the Pentax or like the Mamiya.
I have the Mamiya too. I have the Mamiya RZ 672.
Okay, now you're just showing off.
No. The Pentax I like it better though. I'm not gonna lie. The Pentax is, yeah. The Mamiya is good too.
I use both. Definitely. I feel like the Mamiya is just a lot more finicky. I'm like, looking down. I'm like, bruh, like my neck is hurting.
Exactly.
Your eye is like.
This one you can just pick it up and you just hold it instead of like, and then the Mamiya flips it. When you're looking at it flips it that way, so it's already like And you get
your roll of film and you're like, I don't remember seeing this. It's like, am I bad at this?
Right.
So going back to the question that was, is there anything you're currently obsessed with? It's movies, music, songs,
okay.
That kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, randomly food. I've been cooking this catfish and grits that I'm obsessed with. That's number one. Number two, music and songs. I'm big on music, so it's I just constantly, my playlist is constantly changing. But Erykah Badu is my favorite artist, so she's always in the rotation somewhere. Movies, I don't really watch movies. Like it's weird. Like I said, I watch a lot of documentaries. I'm obsessed with this series called Soft White Underbelly on YouTube. I watch they drop an episode like every day, and I watch it before I go to bed. It's like 30 minutes episodes every time. So that's like my obsession, I will say. So Soft White Underbelly on YouTube, you'll see all about the people living on Skid Row and how they got there, their stories from start to jump. And it just opens your eyes to a lot of things. And a lot of people were just dealt bad cards and couldn't get out of it, unfortunately. So, yeah.
That's also crazy that they release an episode every night, because it's like there must be so many stories.
Exactly. And that's another thing that I thought the same thing. But I've got so invested into these people. Sometimes they do updates on them, like if they're able to find them again. And like, it's hard to get out of there. And then being in California, where it's the most expensive place, like a lot of these people are really just stuck, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, definitely in a system that doesn't try to help these people and kind of keeps them in this rotation and like this deathly cycle. Like, totally.
They're supposed to be building a 19-story building in downtown LA to help all of the homeless, but we'll see when that gets built.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna check it out. I feel like those are the kind of stories that I love to
Mhm.
hear. That, and I
Yeah.
also am into my like crime stuff right now.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
love listening to those stories,
Right.
and I'm like, whew, it's
Mhm.
a weird addiction.
Yep.
Um, we have a couple more minutes left, so if you guys still had any more questions, please drop them, and we will get to them. Natalia asks, "Is there something that you haven't shot yet that you want to?"
Lots of stuff. Lots of stuff. Yeah. I have lots of concepts that I still want to shoot, but I'm like, now that I know what I want, it's like I need this certain camera, this certain lens, this certain this, or it's not gonna come out the way. So I always am like just trying to wait till I can afford to get more equipment, because this equipment is just not cheap. And these studios and all this adds up. But definitely a lot of stuff that I still want to shoot. Yeah, I'll just say it on here. I randomly really want to capture Black women that were convicted and are in prison for self-defense. I want to do a film shoot on a lot of those women and tell those stories. So I'm trying to figure out if I can find my way into somebody that will be able to connect me with a nonprofit or something that will be able to let me capture those stories. So that's what I'm kind of working on, trying to find right now. So if anybody knows anybody that knows anybody, let me know.
That's awesome. I feel like those are the deep stories that we want to hear, not just like the surfacing stuff. Like,
Exactly.
there are so many different types of cases, and it's like, I'm like, where are these
Mhm.
people now? How is it affecting?
Exactly.
How
What
is
are
this
they
affecting them?
doing? What kind of support are they getting in there? What are they living like? Like, yeah, I would go on a rabbit hole about that. But yeah, that's something that I definitely want to work on soon.
Yeah, I'm rooting for you for that. On this topic, though, I have a question for you.
Uh,
Who are kind of like your dream collaborators that you haven't shot with yet? Like
yeah.
brands, people, what have
Um,
you?
Number one, Erica Badu, if we're talking about artists. She's my favorite. Brands, honestly, Nike was my number one. I'm happy that I was able to work with them. I'm going to do more stuff with them. And I don't know. I never really think of like brands or stuff. I just think of like other random projects like the prison stuff. Like I'm like, this thought has been stuck in my head. But brands wise, I don't know. It's more so about the concepts that I want to shoot for the brands, what I'm trying to bring into what they're doing. Just bringing more awareness. So yeah, there's not any brand that I have on my mind. I'm like really trying to think. No.
Are there any other artists, maybe?
Um The other artist that I really wanted to shoot passed away, Nipsey Hussle. I did get a photo of him, but I didn't get to work with him one-on-one. I really wanted to work with him. I would love to work with, so I want to work with Meg Thee Stallion.
Oh yeah,
I would love to
great.
work with Meg. Yeah, like
Yeah,
any woman that is just like standing up and doing her like how she wants to do it with no boundaries. I'm just like, I love it. I love it, and I'm here for it. So that's the type of woman that I want to work with.
totally.
Yeah.
That's dope. Yeah, I saw your photos for like Sweetie, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you gotta shoot all of them. Cardi, Megan, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Cardi, exactly. Yeah. I'd love to shoot all of them for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Somebody said my girlfriend loves that channel. Oh, somebody else watches South White Underbelly. Yeah. And you can literally get obsessed with that channel. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely watch it tonight after this.
Yeah. Watch one,
I
please.
think we have one more question, and I like this question a lot because, yeah, I find that like film came in a wave.
Yep.
Like no one was using it, and then suddenly in the past, I want to say like year and a half, maybe,
Yeah.
like we have the Rosie Mathesons, we have the like
Exactly.
so many film photographers.
And at first it was like just 35 millimeter film. Now people are actually really getting into the 120 film too.
Totally. I want a 120. I have my like AE one up there.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Love it.
I tried. I dabbled.
Yeah, I dabble. Yeah.
So our last question is from Maya. And they ask, do you exposure by eye or do you use a light meter? That's a great question.
Both. Usually I can gauge it. Like obviously outside I do like the sunny 16 rule. And I usually know, okay, I've shot this before on this type of skin tone. So I usually know now, but I still use the light meter just in case. Like because it takes nothing. You just go like this really quick. Yeah, so I do both.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, that was our last question. How do you feel?
I feel good.
That's awesome.
Answered a lot of stuff. Everybody asked a lot of good questions. So I hope that I was able to drop a little bit of something for someone to pick up.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. I mean, I'm sure everyone here has taken a lot out of this conversation. So thank you so much for sharing. And thank you to everyone for tuning in and listening to us chat. Make sure you follow Nai to stay up on top of all her projects and, you know, the crazy documentary she's going to be working on soon.
Yes.
And if you're in LA, pull up to one of her events, you know.
Yes, please.
Yeah. And make sure you follow Parsons Entrepreneur to stay on top of our future events. We have a lot of amazing creatives coming up, just like Nai herself. So you definitely don't want to miss out on that. But thank you again for tuning in. I hope everyone has a good rest of their night and a good rest of their week. And we'll see you on the next one.
Bye, y'all. Thank you so much.
Bye.